Calais Campbell might be out of Miami if Miami Dolphins decide that they're just going to play like dog crap and get themselves out of the playoffs. So Calais Campbell might be released because of the fact to put him on a playoff contender, like a Super Bowl contender, so he's got a chance at winning a Super Bowl ring before he retires. Tyreek Hill might want out of Miami also. And then on top of that, taking a little switch in the NBA, there's some big trade buzz going around Jimmy Butler. Now, Pat Riley says that he's not going to trade him, but if they do decide to trade him, I'm going to tell you guys my favorite targets and my takes and all my favorites for both the possible Tyreek Hill trade and a possible Jimmy Butler trade, and also a ideal landing spot for Calais Campbell. Coming up right after this. Welcome back to the Final Seconds podcast, the number one podcast, the number one haven for everything sports related, sports takes, previews, opinions, arguments, you name it, I got it. I'm always talking about something. First things first, though, let's talk about something huge. Calais Campbell might be on the waiver wire pretty soon if the Miami Dolphins are knocked out of the playoffs. And knowing as a 36, I think he's like 37, I think, 37-year-old defensive lineman, his time in the league is pretty much over. And I think that, at the same time, he wants to win a Super Bowl because he's 38 years old. And at the same time, I feel like the dude has so many accolades, and he's been such an amazing player. He's a 6-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro, and a member of the Hall of Fame of the all 2010s team. He was also named the 2017 Defensive Player of the Year, 2017, Defensive Player of the Year, and then 2019 Walter Payton Man of the Year. So the dude has Hall of Fame caliber accolades, and I think the one thing that can really put the cherry on top on his career is winning a Super Bowl. Therefore, I got two teams that he could be a great fit for. No, well, no, more about three. I think. I think three. I know three good teams that he would really stand out on. Number one, Kansas City Chiefs. That's pretty straightforward. They're 15-1 right now. They have the best record in the NFL, and to be honest with you, he can't really go wrong on the Chiefs. Our defensive line is star-studded. We got Charles Omenihu, we got Chris Jones, we got George Karlaftis, Mike Dan on the other defensive side, and he's been one heck of a player this year. And at the end of the day, knowing how big of a guy Calais Campbell is, you can move him from the defensive tackle, and defensive end spot. So basically, you can really flip-flop the guy. He can play either of those two positions. And considering how bad our kind of run defense has been over the last week or so, I feel like it wouldn't be bad to have him on there just in case, worst case scenario, Chris Jones goes down with a minor injury and we don't have him for a playoff game. We have somebody to lean back on like Calais Campbell. Regardless of how old he is, he's still a very explosive player. He's still a very big player that teams like to lock down at all costs, because you give that guy some room, he's going to make you pay for it. And at the end of the day, Calais Campbell would thrive on a Chiefs defense. It's young, it's star-studded, and it's got a great chance at winning the Super Bowl. And ultimately it's just going to overall help his career. He's going to win a Super Bowl like he wants to, and then he can go to, his retirement and knowing in the back of his mind that, his career is finally complete and he got what he was going for. And I think he's one of the guys that really deserves a Super Bowl ring just because of the fact that the impact that he has made on the league for defensive linemen in general has been absolutely amazing. And I think being on the Kansas City Chiefs would give him the best opportunity to put the cherry on top, ending to his career. And on top of that, it would really overall he would really fit into our style of play. We love bull rushing. We love just going straight 100% full speed at guys. And considering how big of a presence he has, just physically, he's a freak. He's a freak of nature physically. So, I mean, 6'8", and he's like what, 307 pounds. I mean, that is ginormous. And having that paired up with Chris Jones would be the perfect fit. Would be the perfect fit for a guy like that. I'm gonna say second one would be the Buffalo Bills. Worst case scenario, the Chiefs don't go to the Super Bowl. I think the Bills would be a perfect spot for him too, because that defense is already good as it is, and adding a big dude like that with Oliver as a defensive tackle number two with him would be perfect. Say, I mean, two big dudes in the middle right there who are going to absolutely pummel a defense. That is the recipe for success right there. And then number three, I'm gonna give it to the Detroit Lions. Alan McNeil is now out for the rest of the season, and it looks like he might not be back for the Super Bowl, meaning that's like, I don't even know how many what marks him as an injured defensive lineman on that team. And considering they're in desperate need for defensive linemen right now, I think that Calais Campbell could be the perfect fit to replace that defensive tackle there. So then, they have some breathing room. Especially a guy who's a veteran, and considering how young your defense is, it's perfect to have a guy like that on your defense to ultimately like give them that experience and give them that like, closure. And I mean, words of wisdom, the dude's been in the league for literally ever. He was drafted in 2008. Okay, so he's been in the league. It's what, 2024, for 16 years. Um, this will be his 17th technically, I think. So with that being said, he would be perfect for a team like that with a young defense, a young defense like that. So, but I think Kansas City would be the best spot for him, because I think when it comes down to it, if the Lions and the Chiefs play in the Super Bowl, no bias, this is just genuinely from the top of my head. If the Lions and the Chiefs play in the Super Bowl, the team that's going to win is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. And you guys might be saying, because you're a Chiefs fan, that's completely wrong. Yes, I'm a Chiefs fan, but I'm also the first one to admit when they're doing bad. Considering how the Chiefs know how to win big playoff games, especially close ones, that's ultimately going to give them an edge to beat the Lions, because the Lions don't have that type of playoff experience. Yes, they were in the playoffs last year, but at the same time, those extra ballsy calls by Dan Campbell is ultimately what hurt them, and that's what makes the difference between a great coach and an elite coach. And I think Dan Campbell's on the cusp of that. I mean, he's shown that this year, but at the same time, nothing matters in the regular season. You can go 0-18, but as long as you make the playoffs and give it your all, and you're a good enough team where you can slack off, and if you make the playoffs, you'll be fine. So, knowing in the back of your head, I think the Kansas City Chiefs, if it's going to be one thing, it's going to be them winning, because they have that experience winning big games like the Super Bowl, which they have back-to-back years, and both of them came out incredibly close. So, let's kind of take a little turn. I did see little trade rumors around Tyreek Hill about how he might want out, and to be 100,000% honest with you, if he does decide to take the alternative route, I have 5 teams that would be perfect landing spots for him. Now, all of these are semi like playoff to championship contenders, because he is kind of getting on the older side, so meaning he's probably going to be wanting to be on a team where he's getting, a lot of targets. I'm going to say number 1, I think this would genuinely be the best spot. Chiefs bring him back. Kansas City Chiefs, I'd say at number 1 would be the best spot for him. Considering how undynamic our offense has been throughout the year this year, I think it would be a perfect place for him to come to, with DeAndre Hopkins, Xavier Worthy, Marquise Brown. This would bring him in the perfect spot, an old target for Mahomes, a great guy that can take the top off, and that can open up so many holes in the defense that the Chiefs could win by blowouts in the playoffs. Second one, I'm going to say the LA Chargers. The Chargers are one big wide receiver, superstar wide receiver away from making a deep playoff run. They've had an amazing season. Jim Harbaugh has completely turned that franchise up right side up again. Their defense has been playing great. Their offense has been playing great. Justin Herbert is making a rookie Lad McConkey look like a top 10 wide receiver. I mean, Lad McConkey is breaking out. And having Tyreek Hill and Lad McConkey pair up together would be the perfect duo. It'd be a absolutely perfect duo because not only do they already have a pretty decently strong run game with J.K. Dobbins there, having if Lad McConkey's going so good right now, just imagine how good of a player he could become under Tyreek Hill, a veteran like Tyreek Hill. And that could really turn the tides for a Los Angeles Chargers team or just the franchise itself. And considering what they're number 2 in the division right now, already clinched playoff berth, they're in the perfect kind of setup right now to where they can build their team to become Super Bowl contenders. Right now they have the 6th seed, they're 10-6, considering they weren't even a playoff team last year, barely out of the playoffs last year. They're 10-6 this year, already clinched playoff berth. I mean, building a team off of what Jim Harbaugh's foundation has been laid down, bringing Tyreek Hill into that system would be absolutely perfect. My third team would be not the LA Chargers, sorry, I just said that. The Baltimore Ravens. Hey, Lamar needs a wide receiver, okay? I know Zay Flowers, man. Zay Flowers, he's a great player, but at the same time, you need a guy who is a great possession receiver, an absolute freaking speed demon. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, and Tyreek Hill on one offense is going to win them multiple Super Bowls. And I think the one thing that's holding Lamar back is great wide receivers, great weapons. And if they bring a guy like Tyreek into that system, that is the best thing they can do for Lamar. Because not only now he's got Derrick Henry to have a run, he can run the ball. You got Zay Flowers to throw to, Mark Andrews to throw to, Isaiah Likely to throw to, Tyreek Hill. That offense can become so explosive, so quick with that addition. That is the one roster that could dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs in a minute. And then 4th team, I said Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos, they're not in a Super Bowl situation, but this is a big step up from what they had last year. And Bo Nix is throwing lights out. And I think Bo Nix needs one superstar wide receiver to have him have a breakout year. And he's already making Cortland Sutton look good. Having him and Tyreek Hill pair up together, perfect duo. And then number 5, Houston Texans. Stephon Diggs out for the year. I don't know, and this is his last year on his contract. I don't know if he's going to decide to re-sign with the Texans. And if he doesn't, and if the Texans don't decide to sign him, then Tyreek Hill and Nico Collins might be the way to go. Because Tank Dell's out for next year. Okay, so that brings a speed demon guy out of the equation. Bringing Tyreek Hill and Nico Collins and then Dalton Schultz at tight end would be the perfect trio for CJ Stroud to get out of the slump that he's had this year. Definitely. So, I mean, those are my top 5 teams. I think I would love to see Tyreek back in Kansas City because, my goodness, a guy like him, as much as I hate on him for leaving to the Chiefs and going to the Dolphins, it seems like he's finally realizing now that the grass ain't greener on the other side. And he could have 3 Super Bowls in his back pocket right now. And I mean, that's the choice he decided to make. That's on him. And now let's switch some sides now. Let's take a turn to the NBA. Jimmy Butler has requested a trade, and he would prefer if he was out by the trade deadline. I think that it was about time. I mean, the Heat have gone so deep in the playoffs before just to not win a championship. It was about damn time they let him go and try to start a little rebuild again to find that superstar player. So considering how old Jimmy Butler is right now, which I'm pretty sure he's in his mid-30s. How old is Jimmy Butler? Yeah, he's 35 years old, so he needs to be in a win-now situation. So my top 4 teams I would love to see him go to. Number 1, the Memphis Grizzlies. I think Desmond Bain, John Morant, Zach Edey, and then that young bench that they had that kind of broke out last year after their team kind of died off injuries last season. Um, he would be perfect on there. I mean, that's a great starting five, right? And then having Ja, Bain, Jimmy Butler, and then putting Jaren Jackson Jr. and Zach Edey in the mix, that could make one absolute super team. Okay, having that starting five would, I think, give them that finals push. And I mean, Jimmy's a great defender. He can score, he can play make, he can grab boards, and he's a great defender. That would be perfect for a team like that. Like, genuinely, that would be perfect for a team like that. Number two, I got the Dallas Mavericks. Luca, Kyrie, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, and Jimmy Butler. That'd be also incredibly ideal. Now, Klay probably coming off the bench, so the starting five would more look like Luca, Kyrie, Butler, PJ Washington, and Daniel Gafford. And that would be a great starting five also, because then you got the defense and the rebounds with Butler and Gafford, and then you got the primary scorers in Kyrie and Luca, and PJ Washington can still shoot, grab boards too. That would be a great ideal spot for Jimmy Butler to thrive in. That's an environment he could honestly, like a system he could genuinely thrive in. Number three, I think this is very unlikely, but I think he could genuinely fit into a team like this. I'm gonna say the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, I know he was on there before. He didn't like kind of being there, but he would be in an amazing position right now with Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, him at the three, right? Jimmy Butler at the three, and then you got Julius Randle at the four and Rudy Gobert at the five. You can grab boards with Rudy and and Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler can also play make with Mike Conley, and then on top of that, having Julius Randle there, him and Julius Randle can really help efficiently stretch out the floor, and I think that would be amazing for a team like the Timberwolves, who are kind of in a slump right now, and they could really turn up right side up again. And then number four, I'm gonna give it to the Milwaukee Bucks. Also a team that's been very, very, very kind of ice cold right now and in a slump. Having Damian Lillard, Jimmy Butler, Giannis, and Brook Lopez, that would be a great that would be a good four too also. Because Chris Middleton is very injury prone. He's barely even playing right now. Having Dame who can shoot, Giannis who can finish and grab boards, and play make also. He can do everything. Amazing defender. Brook Lopez, great defender, grabs boards, can shoot, and then Jimmy Butler used as a playmaker slash defender. That defense for the team could become way better than what it's at right now, and I think Jimmy Butler could be that missing piece for the Bucks to make one finals push, like a big finals push. I think Jimmy Butler on these four teams would genuinely thrive. Like, honestly thrive. They're all finals contending teams. And considering he's 35 years old, he's got accolades. He might be, but right now, I think that him being a Hall of Famer is in jeopardy. And I think one thing that can secure him as a Hall of Famer would be winning a championship. And considering he's 0 for 2 in the NBA Finals right now, him sitting back with another superstar would honestly be the way to go. Now, what team would I like to see him with? Genuinely, Minnesota Timberwolves. I think they would be what I want to see, right? I have them at the third spot. I think they would be great, but I'd like me personally, I would like to see him on the Minnesota Timberwolves because that would just be one exciting squad. I mean, you got Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, Jimmy Butler, Julius Randle, and then you got Rudy Gobert there. Got Jaden McDaniels coming off the bench. Rob Dillingham, a developing Rob Dillingham, who has shown that he can ball when he gets the minutes. I think ultimately this could be an amazing system that Jimmy Butler could be put in to where they could win an NBA Finals within the next 2 years. So yeah, I mean, I know this one was a very short episode. Um, like I said earlier, I wanted to kind of spread my posting out a little bit more rather than squashing everything into one huge video. But all I gotta say is thank you for tuning in. Um, like I told you, we uploaded a lot. I'm uploading clips on Instagram, YouTube, my videos and everything. I'm gonna take it off Spotify for a little while. Let's see how YouTube goes, and then I might start posting on Spotify again also. And yeah, that's gonna conclude the episode. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Um, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace out.